Hello everyone. I'm going to go over some things here on these 94 Plus Mustang fuel pumps. A lot of people will use that factory wiring to run larger pumps. The factory wiring is fine for the stock pump, which is 88 or 95 liter per hour. That only pulls 2 or 3 amps. Hopefully you can see this. 5 amps at 20 feet maxes out that 14 gauge wire they used. If you would go to 25 feet with a full 5 amps, you would need 12. Fortunately, it's not 5 amps, it's 2 or 3. And, where things go wrong is when you go to something that pulls 20 amps, like a 340 pump, which is actually way more pump than most people need. And that's probably the reason why they didn't get by with it, because a 340 pump naturally aspirated on 93 is good for close to, it's good for 875 horsepower, maybe even 900. This is from the EVTM. You have fuse box, wire runs in a loop down the perimeter of the car, around to the CCRM, makes some loops there, zigzags around, goes to the firewall. From the firewall, it runs downhill a couple of feet, it crosses the car again, makes a loop, runs back, makes a loop, climbs up over the fender well, comes down, kind of makes a loop, runs around the perimeter some more and makes some loops there, goes to the fuel pump. It's 6 feet across the car, and it's crossing the car 3 times. That's 18 feet, not counting the loops. Best I can figure, without laying the entire harness on the ground, is about 36 feet total run. So if you were to take a 340 pump, which is going to pull between somewhere around 18 amps, we'll call it 20, and you're going to run it between 30 and 40 feet through the factory wiring, you need a 7 gauge wire, which they don't make, so you call it a 6. That's quite a difference between 6 gauge and 14 gauge. And also, if you're using the standard wire that would be found on eBay or Amazon or at most local auto parts stores, it will be CCA. You can look it up. It'll be CCA. That's copper clad aluminum. When you run copper clad aluminum versus pure copper wire, you need to step up one size. So if you're using, for example, 4 gauge pure copper, you'll need to step up to 2 gauge CCA. This is one of mine. This is the type I run on my own car. This piece of wire would be 18 feet, about 18 feet. The way I run them straight from the battery, straight through the firewall, down the door sill, on into the trunk, and it makes a little turn and goes to the pump. For that, a 340 pump, which pulls, we'll say 20 amps, you're running at about 20 feet. It maxes out 10 gauge wire. So anything larger than 340 pump is going to overextend that wire. I mean, it's a 15 to 20 amp pump. Actually, it's really borderline a 340 with 10 gauge. And also, you've got at least 5 male-female type connectors throughout that run, throughout the factory run, that are subject to resistance. They're 30 years old. So eliminating those, running your wire straight from the fuse box, straight down the driver's side to the pump. You're going to end up, still going to end up, like I said, with 18 feet, maybe a little more. On that, I run these, again, like I did on the fans. I run the 75 amp relay. I run the 10 gauge wire. The short piece is not here. That would connect to the pump. This is so you can disconnect from the pump when you drop the tank. All those numbers are facts. I mean, you can look them up yourself. So What's going to happen, say, if you run a 340 pump on a too small of a wire? It's not going to run at 340 liter per hour. It's going to run down to 250 or whatever, and you may get by with that. That's the reason people get by with it. They have more pump than what they need to start with, because a 340 pump will support 1,000 horsepower naturally aspirated on 93. So I mean, people tend to put a lot bigger pump than what they need. So you be your own judge there. I mean, this is what I run. This particular one is replacing the one on my car, which is basically the same thing, other than the connector here I've added to make it easier to drop the tank. And the Aeromotive pumps have these studs that you can bolt directly to. I mean, it won't work if you run this wire all the way back to the back and then connect it to a small pump wire. I'm going to throw this in today too. This is my AC. This is my AC hookup. All of this stuff will work with carbs too. I run the 2 relays. All you have to do to connect this up is connect the request wire to the high pressure switch on the AC liquid line, and then connect the wide open throttle to the output on your Holley, and also connect the kick to the kick output on your Holley. You're pretty much done there. This plugs straight in to the AC compressor. That's a waterproof box. It works really nice. But I encourage you to look those up. I mean, this goes on a lot. People undersize this wire, but you know, keep in mind that CCA and copper are 2 different things. You always have to step that up by 1. I mean, if I was going to use this is pure copper. This is TXL wire. All of this is. If you were going to do the same job, and you know you need 10 gauge, then you're going to have to buy 8 gauge CCA, which is commonly sold by most all auto parts stores, Amazon, and eBay. You'll have to go to actual wiring or electrical supply house to find pure copper. In most cases, I mean, you may find it here and there, but not very often. I hope that helps everyone. Have any questions, just let me know. Thanks. Please like and subscribe.